Hello everyone, welcome to my channel, Madam Saffroni. So today we are going to discuss about the plant tissues. Moving on to the first slide, I would like to discuss about cell. Cell is known as totipotent. That means it has the ability to produce a full organism. An organism? How is it possible? Cell is the basic unit of life. These cells have the power to divide. This divisible power make them potent for making an organism. These cells divide to form tissues. Tissues collectively form organ. A number of organs form an organ system, and when the organ system starts coordinating with each other, they form organism. For example, if you are hungry, there an enzyme releases from your stomach that produces acidity and your brain start releasing a hormone that gives the sign that you are hungry. So these organ systems coordinates with them. Moving on, plant and animal tissues. Tissues are present both in plants and animals, but animals are more complex. They have more complexity of organ system. That's why they have complex tissues, whereas plants have simple tissues. No doubt, plants also perform functions like photosynthesis as they require water, nutrient, so as to perform various functions. They also need tissues. These tissues present in stem, roots and leaf of plant. So plant tissues are divided into two parts: meristematic tissues and permanent tissues. For meristematic tissues, I want to give a word called young ones. Meristematic tissues are those which can produce, which have the power to divide. They are newly born. These tissues have the ability to divide rapidly. Whereas in case of permanent tissues, they are not old, but they are specialized. Like these tissues now become grown-ups and now they perform a particular function. These tissues lack the ability to divide because they started performing a particular function. So what are meristematic tissues? The word meristos, that is divisible, signifies that they have the ability to divide. They help the plant in its growth and they form new organs. So how they look like? They are closely packed with no or little intercellular spaces. What is an intercellular spaces? It is the space between the two cells. So they are so tightly packed that either there is very little space left or no space left. They are of different shapes: spherical, oval or polygonal. They have dense protoplasm, thick cell wall and centrally placed nucleus. Vacuoles are either small or absent. So what are the types of meristematic tissue? There are basically three types of meristematic tissues. They are apical, lateral and intercalary. The name signifies itself. Apical, that means they are present on the apex of roots and stems, and they promote their longitudinal growth. So in case of stems and roots, when they start growing longitudinally, they are attaining primary growth. That is why it is said that apical tissues are helpful in primary growth. Next is lateral. Lateral are present on the stem sides and they increase the girth, the diameter of the stem. Here I have shown a picture of cork cambium. They are present in the lateral one are present in this cork cambium. The figure shown here shows the girth of a stem. Have you seen the trunk of a big tree? How thick it is and how it has achieved that diameter, that is due to this lateral tissues. Next is the intercalary. They are present at the nodes or between the internodes. So what are nodes and internodes? Here I have shown a picture of sugarcane. The sugarcane, is an edible stem. And this stem possesses thickened portion. Look here, these are the thickened portion of stems. And these thickened portions are known as nodes. So, these intercalary tissues are present on these nodes base or between these nodes. Between these nodes is known as internodes. The space between two nodes is known as internodes. So, it is important for their growth. Moving on to permanent tissues. We have read that plant tissues are of two types, meristematic and permanent. Permanent are specialized ones. Now they become specialized. They are differentiated. They have fully grown. Now they are ready to perform a particular function. They don't need further division, so they lose the power to divide. But now they have acquired a definite shape, form and size. They may be dead or living, may be thick or thin-walled, depending on the requirement of their functionality. One basic difference I have observed is the nuclei is at periphery. So, another is types of permanent tissues. Permanent tissues are of two types, simple tissues and complex tissues. Simple tissues are further divided into dermal tissues and ground tissues, whereas the complex tissues are of two only. They are xylem and phloem. So, permanent tissues, that is differentiated or specialized tissues, how they are divided? Simple tissues are further divided into dermal tissues and ground tissues. Simple tissues mean they possess the single type of cells. Complex tissues mean they are complex. How the complexity occurs? When they are made up of two or more type of tissues. So simple tissues are those which possess one type of cells, whereas complex tissues are those where two or more type of cells collectively form a tissue. So in simple tissues, the dermal tissues, it has further two divisions known as dermal tissue and ground tissue. Dermal, the name itself tells, dermal means epidermis, the skin. So it is very thick-walled, closely packed, usually known as epidermis, the outermost layer present in root, stem and leaf. Most importantly, on the epidermis of stem and leaves, a waxy coating has been released by this epidermal tissue. Why waxy coating is there? That waxy coating is known as cuticle. And why that waxy coating is required? Because it retains water and prevents the plant from drying. Another is ground tissue. Ground tissue is responsible to synthesize food and act as a storage tissue. The plant prepares the food by the help of photosynthesis. Now, where that food need to be stored, it also requires a storage tissue. So that storage tissue is known as ground tissue. It also provides the mechanical strength and also act as a storage tissue. The ground tissue has been further divided into three types of tissues, that is parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. So, ground tissues are of three types, parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. The picture here has been shown the parenchymatous tissues, the storage parenchyma in starch grains, the erenchyma, they are responsible for the air exchange as a food storage, as an air exchange, and palisade present in the chloroplast, usually responsible for the photosynthesis. So type of ground tissues are parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. So they are differentiated on the basis of their features like cell type, the presence of cellular content and what are the functions they perform. So parenchymatous tissues are usually spherical or oval with the intracellular spaces, whereas collenchyma have oval and elongated shape, but it has no space. Sclerenchyma already closely packed and dead cells. Looking to the cellular content, parenchymatous are thin-walled with large vacuole in cytoplasm, whereas collenchyma and sclerenchyma are thick-walled, but they are made up of different material. Collenchyma cell wall is made up of cellulose, whereas lignin is found in sclerenchyma. So, function, basically, parenchymatous tissues are responsible for the storage, and there are two types of parenchymatous tissues present in the plants. One is sclerenchyma, which is responsible for the photosynthesis, and one is erenchyma. Erenchyma is responsible for the air exchange in the aquatic plants, that means in water plants. Whereas collenchyma is present beneath the epidermis and provide the mechanical strength, elasticity, the flexibility to the leaves and the stem. Sclerenchyma is purely responsible for the mechanical support. The sclerenchyma tissue has been further divided into two types, fibers and sclerites. Fibers, they are elongated with the pointing ends. The fibers, the cloth fiber, the cotton fibers you might have seen present in the outer region of cortex, midrib of leaves and stem. Here the figure has been shown the banana leaf fibers. Look, the fibers, these fibers can be used further in the industry for various purposes. Sclerites, they are small over, irregular in shape with lignified cellulose, lignified walls with the pits. Lignified means they are composed of lignin and it is present in seed coat and pulp of fruits. Moving to complex tissues. The complex tissues, why they are complex? Because they are made up of two or more type of cells that work together to form a unit. Now, there are two type of complex tissues present in the plants. One is xylem, another is phloem. You know why they are known as conducting tissues? Because they are responsible for conducting the water and minerals throughout the plants. Xylem performs the function of carrying water and mineral from the root to the leaves, whereas phloem is responsible for conducting food from the leaves to plants to roots, up and down two-way flow. So how both are differentiated? Look at the features. Cell type. Xylem possess dead cell, but they are elongated, tubular in shape. whereas phloem cells are living, although they are also elongated and tubular. The structure of xylem is end-to-end tube-like, whereas the phloem possess transverse partition walls perforated with pores and seeds. Why these pores? Because phloem need to flow the food upward as well as the downward. So these pores are made to transport the food in every part of plant. The important elements of xylem are tracheids and vessels, whereas the important elements of phloem is seed tubes and seed plates. Xylem has thick cell wall made up of lignin, whereas the cell wall of phloem is thin and made up of cellulose. Xylem conducts water and mineral from the root to leaves only, whereas phloem conducts food from leaves to upward and downward through the plant. That means the flow of water and minerals from root to leaves is just single flow from downward to upward, which is performed by xylem. Whereas when food is stored in leaves or in other tissues, they need to be conducted from leaves to every part of the plant, and phloem is responsible for conducting it. I think this is enough for today. Stay tuned for animal tissues. Thank you.